Good afternoon. Welcome to Four Lads Had a Dream Rangers podcast this Saturday afternoon. What are we doing back? I hear you all say. Well, just as simple as it is. We've got so many podders. We've got such a vast array of opinions that we thought we would join you with just some more chat about yesterday's Takeover news. We got about Kevin Thelwell starting on Monday and just a wee bit of manager chat. So it's more like a bonus show, really, for our members and for all the audience out there. So really glad you joined us. Welcome to the show. Let's have a talk about what was a momentous day in Rangers history yesterday. So we hope you enjoy that. A lot of it you might have heard on other platforms, you might have heard already, but it's Rangers, and why wouldn't we want to chat about the takeover and how big it was yesterday and things like that? So joined by Davey and by Sheryl, we're going to discuss that. Davey, good afternoon, mate. How are you?
I'm good, thanks very much. All the better after yesterday. Great to be here and part of this ever-growing pod. It's quite exciting times.
Yeah, Sheryl, it is quite exciting times as well, but we're going to concentrate on Rangers' excitement. But good afternoon on this Saturday. Looking forward to talking about Rangers.
Good afternoon. Yeah, I was just saying before we came on how strange it feels to have nothing to do on a Saturday afternoon. Yeah, it's all a bit weird, but it's lovely to be with you guys and amazing to talk about everything that's coming up for the club.
Yeah, absolutely is. So let's get straight into it. Firstly, thanks to all our YouTube members that have signed in and are watching us. We really appreciate your support. On the very first post on the pod this afternoon is myself, and you can find out how to join that pod. So thank you for that. Let's go straight into this. Yesterday, as we all know, unless you've been at the moon and not wondering what's going on, yesterday Rangers Football Club is pleased to announce that a consortium of investors led by Andrew Kavanagh and 49ers Enterprises has purchased a majority stake in the club with approval from the Scottish FA. The consortium will chart a new strategic vision for the club's future, prioritising on-pitch performance and long-term financial stability. What that means, ladies and gentlemen, just to clarify, there's been lots of people maybe not understanding what's what. They now own 51% of the football club. That is not dependent on anything. That is not depending on us putting in any money to do with the EGM. That is not dependent on anything. They own 51% of the football club from now. They are the majority shareholders in this football club. Andrew Kavanagh is the chairman. Marathi is the vice chairman. The Leeds chairman is our vice chairman. Fraser Thornton drops down into the board. Patrick Stewart will continue as our day-to-day CDO running the football club. Davey, heralded change that we've been asking for, and we've been now talking about for what feels like an eternity, but the last 3.5 months since this news broke. What's your thoughts, and give us your instant reaction on yesterday's news?
Well, the minute the news was confirmed yesterday, my immediate thought was it's the best thing to happen to our club since 2015, when we get rid of the poison from the boardroom, when Dave King, etc., took over back then. This is the best day since then, off the pitch. It's actually, I've got to pinch myself a little bit when I think about some of the owners this club's had, especially majority owners that this club's had. Now we're talking about part of a sports organisation that's worth billions, tapping into financial markets and across the world that are worth billions, guys that are in the boards of all kinds of companies. And I was actually looking up some of these other American chaps that came onto the board because I didn't know anything about those three. And when you look at the background they've got and the commercial contacts they must have, I would imagine from a commercial point of view, this might be the biggest thing Rangers have ever done. It can only be good. I can't think of a single negative in it. Although knowing me, I'll come up with a negative at some point. I've still got the scars from previous ownerships. I'm sure we all have. When I hear things like 51% stakes, and I hear things about becoming a private company, and I hear things about trying to get 100% ownership, my immediate reaction is, I don't know if I want any of that stuff, because we've been bitten so badly in the past. But then I tell myself, look who it is. It's not some shyster that's not a millionaire but pretends to be. You're actually talking about one of the biggest sporting organisations in the world. And to be part of that is incredibly exciting. And I can't wait to see what happens next.
Shyster. I'm not sure I've heard that word since the old Home Alone films, I think, at Christmas time. But great use of a word there, Davey. Sheryl, let's get your instant reaction to yesterday's news. It was, as I discussed, we have been waiting on it a long time, but to get over the line, it was a nice feeling, that's for sure. Give us your instant reaction to that news.
I'm just like Davey. You know, we spoke about it when we were together on the pod on Monday, Stevie. We all knew it was happening, despite the thoughts of the financial and business experts in the East End. So to be able to shut them up properly, or even just for a wee while, because they've now changed their tack, I believe, and it's all focusing on this 20 million and how much it costs, etc. But nervous, really, really excited, like Davey says, to have the expertise on board and to have the strategy and to be managed by really successful businessmen, but businessmen that have a sporting background as well. Because I think we need to show, we need to express a debt of gratitude to the people that came in and, like Davey said, saved us all those years ago, and who I know had great intentions for our club, but maybe just didn't have the know-how to get us to where we need to be. But well, now we have that. So to have that and to have that huge backing behind us, I think is absolutely incredible. I'm really excited to see where it takes us on the pitch and off the pitch as well. I know there'll be a lot of work if you look at what's happening down in Leeds and you look at what's happened in San Francisco around the stadium as well, the development there. I think that's hugely exciting for us as well. The Giffnock Loyal are slightly excited about maybe getting back to Hampden at some point. I know we'll probably be lone voices in the crowd for that, but you never know. I just think it's a hugely exciting time. We know that we need to get back to doing the basics properly. We need to beat what's in front of us convincingly. But I think given a bit of time, that's where we'll be.
Yeah, and let's certainly hope so. I'm seeing there's a few questions and things coming in, so I'll grab them as we're going along. Fall Victim X asked Stevie, am I right in saying that although Fraser Thornton is no longer chairman, he'll effectively be acting chairman when Kavanagh is in the States? Pretty much. So Fraser Thornton continues with Rangers, but on the board of directors, given what is described as a local sense of expertise. And it's considering that Andrew Kavanagh lives in the States and Piedra Marathi has got as chairman of Leeds and will have so much dealings and goings on, it's fair to say that Fraser Thornton will probably act as a default kind of chairman when these guys aren't available. And that'll just be a kind of link. I used the word pivot yesterday to keep things moving along. And of course, Patrick Stewart as the CEO will continue and he'll run it from day to day. So hopefully that helps you, mate, and gives you the answer you're looking for. One of these questions here from Scott Kearney, it ties into what we had written down next to discuss. Kavanagh and Marathi outlined why they believe that thoughtful, disciplined investment guided by a clear strategy is a path to enduring success. What does that mean for Rangers in reality? I thought that was a really interesting question, Davey. One that I wanted to highlight and bring up. What's your thoughts on exactly what that means?
Well, there's two sides to that, really. One of them is that there are rules around about financial spending in football clubs, which every team needs to be aware of. If people were expecting them to just come in and throw hundreds of millions of pounds in it, A, it'd be a stupid thing to do, and B, they're not allowed to anyway. But I think what it's basically telling us is you just need to look at what they've done at Leeds. Yes, they invested a bit up front, but they also maximised the value of the squad that they had. They actually sold a few players that the supporters wanted to keep because they saw it as the best long-term thing to do, because they could replace them with 3 or 4 players for that money. So what we'll see is we'll no longer see players running down contracts. We'll no longer see players scouted that haven't really been watched, that just get brought in a whim. You will be analytical. We'll be business driven. We will get value for money, which is something that we absolutely haven't done up until this point in time. But I do think there will be some front-loaded investment in that. This 20 million that people are talking about, mean, that'll be over and above whatever the transfer budget was in the summer anyway. And if you look at previous, I mean, even last summer we were cost cutting, and yet we still spent more than 10 million quid in the transfer market. So we always spend an amount in the summer. So you can add 20 to that now, or the guts of 20, unless some of it's going elsewhere. Plus, it wouldn't surprise me if we bring in some money through sales, whether that's Raskin, Dessers, the guys down in Birmingham, the proper, who knows, there might be a few sales. So you might be talking that even though they're not putting vast sums in up front, you could argue, you could still be talking about a significant chunk of money to spend in the team, and we'll need that. And yeah, and I'm quite confident that we'll see signings which have got future potential, but also signings that will change the sort of leadership and experience profile in the team as well.
Again, I'll answer this just as we go, Sheryl. I'm about to ask you the same questions, but Headkeeper asks, is Stuart Gibson still involved? Yes, he is. Stuart Gibson is one, along with George Taylor and John Halstead, that is committed to taking his shareholding and remains at the club. I'm not sure that Stuart, I'm just looking at the board where it says the new leadership group include Mark Tabor, Andrew Clayton, Gene Schnur will join Andrew Kavanagh, Pirjai Marathi as new members of the board. Patrick Stewart, Fraser Thornton, John Halstead, George Taylor will remain on the board. Graham Park, Julian Wouldhart and Alistair Johnston are stepping down from the board with deep thanks from the club for their contributions. So it doesn't mention Stuart Gibson being on the board, but he never was involved before. But the information given to us yesterday was that he remains with his shareholding, and they will take that above 5% as one of the ones that will keep being available to support the club and what they're trying to do. So hopefully that answers your question. Sorry about that, Sheryl, just to keep you. I am trying to answer the questions as we kind of go along, and as they're relevant, people will want a few clarification on things, which I don't mind doing at all. But to go back to that question for you, what does that mean for the club, do you think, on the vision and how we are going to portray things? And then I'm going to have a wee talk on it myself. I think I'm going to have a wee chit chat as well. But give me your opinion, please. I'm really want to hear that.
I think just having one, Stevie, having a vision. I mean, what has been the vision? Past, getting to 55, stopping the 10, we know how important that was. But since then, that there hasn't been a clear vision. There hasn't even been a kind of clear style of play. There hasn't been a plan going forward. So I think it's going to be huge just to be able to get that, to generate that, to bring the players in for it to play in a set way. I don't know who's going to come in. We still don't know. We're no further on the manager at the moment. But when that's all in place, just looking forward to having a group behind us that are going to be able to set that, bring the players in. We know that it'll be maybe 3 or 4 transfer windows to bring everybody in that we want, and also to have that cleared out as well. But I don't know if you guys had seen, there had been a Leeds United supporter who's been very active on social media over the weekend, just giving us a wee bit of a taste around what's happened with them. And I think, Davey, you touched on it earlier, that they kind of had this set up where they got rid of a lot of popular players, much to the fans' disgust, but brought in these kind of sort of diamonds in the rough, players that they'd managed to find that did a cracking job for Leeds. Do you know what? See if somebody does that for us, I think that would be absolutely fantastic. We need a clear out. We need fresh ideas. We need fresh leadership. And we need a really, really clear direction on where we're going next. And I think we'll get that.
So here's my takeaway on how I think and what I think this means for Rangers as a club overall, and what we're going to see. They will put in a structure that we badly missed. And I think that's incredibly important. I feel like I'm repeating myself, and I am, because I apologise if you've heard Stevie say this 1,000 times, but this football club cannot go without a chairman again for as long as it did. It cannot go without a CEO for as long as it did. It cannot go with a commercial manager coming up in one day a month, and the things that were allowed to happen before can never happen again. This football club will be given a structure on and off the pitch. It's already started, which means that You know, there's going to become more executive appointments, right down from the academy to recruitment to scouting, and then off the pitch, which was where we want to be. There's a commercial head of commercial department will come in. We know that Sean Jameson has been there for 6 months or so, kind of tiding over, and he's been doing like an analytical look at everything and where we can improve and things like that. And commercial is going to be absolutely fantastic for the football club, and there'll be lots of big options and things in the future time. So we'll get that. I think that's fair to say, but they'll make sure there's a structure and an infrastructure around, like they've done at Leeds, they'll do here at Rangers, and like they have in the 49ers, Enterprisers, and everything else. All that's quite solid. So I'm looking forward to that. And you might think, Stevie, why is that so important? Because it is. See, at the moment, if they're not coming in, with nobody in the academy, with nobody in recruitment, we've not got somebody doing Kevin Thelwell's job, we've not got anybody in commercial department that's there. And there's all these things. How are we going to fund that? Where are we going to get the money? So that's all really important for me. That's what they'll do. On the pitch, I think they'll take a really strategic view to it. And that is something I've been calling for. And it seems like the most ridiculously easy answer, but I've said it a lot, that what we've tried to do in these last few summers hasn't worked, and we've continued the process. And what I mean by that is throwing 20 million at Summers, and it's not how we've spent money, it's what we've spent it on. It's always been my biggest thing. And if we can do it sensibly with a plan, and we need to have a summer where we don't correct that summer next summer. And I think that's where it's critically important, Cheryl. And I think that's what they'll do. So it might be in this summer that they might say, not bring in as many as we think, but they'll bring in the key ones that they think that works on the pitch. Off the pitch, I think they'll make the appointments, and we'll put them in place. But Cheryl, I think, and Davey, I'll ask you the same thing, if what I'm saying kind of resonates and rings true for you. Caveat to that, and everybody's asking me to use that word, that's only my opinion, Cheryl, but do you think that makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at our recruitment, like you say, it's just been picking up players, flinging money. There doesn't seem to have been any really clear strategy around who we want, around the style of play, around who's going to fit that. You know, I know we're going to have a bit of a depth in the squad in terms of who's going to be our mainstays in the league, who's going to be more important in Europe, but we need a basic squad there that can do the business in the league. We need players that can come in, and I've said it before, on a Greek Wednesday night in Paisley, that are going to be able to do a job there. And too many of our first team starters this season and across the last couple of seasons haven't been able to do that. And that's where we're falling down. You know, we start on the back foot every single season because we don't have that. We're having to start earlier and earlier, and we need to get the basics right. So yeah, I'm with you 100%, Stevie.
Thank you to Chris and Summer RFC, who's became a YouTube member. First one of the day. Thank you very much, mate. We appreciate the support. A few people have commented, a few of our members, talking about the Stephen Naismith interview and Bob Malcolm interview that we have available. Bob Malcolm was interviewed by Davey for the Helicopter Sunday. I want to say it wasn't really a documentary as such, but more a season review we done, Davey and I. Davey done all the hard work for that. I edited it together because Andrew wasn't available due to illness, so I took that hot seat. I think we did all right, Davey. It was an enjoyable one. You can check that out. Members and non-members can check out the Helicopter Sunday on our documentary on our, or review, whatever you want to call it, on our channel. Members, they can check out Stephen Naismith interview, Bob Malcolm interview with Stephen Smith as well. And we've got a few other things coming up as well with podcast members. And I've already reached out trying to set up the next podcast interviews for us also. So for members, we'll keep you as occupied as we can. Davey, going back to what I've said, Cheryl touched on the pitch, but off the pitch, and this will sound sad, I think it must be an old age thing, or is it because of how we've been run, that it really concerns me the state that we've allowed this club to get into off the pitch amongst the staff. And it just, at times, I felt rudderless. I didn't feel the club had any guidance. And just to have that now and have that strategy behind them, I think that's going to make a massive, massive difference.
Without doubt. I think it felt for quite a while as if you had no idea who was in charge of Rangers. It just felt as if there was people there, but you weren't sure what they did, and you weren't sure who was actually running the show. I thought bringing John Gilligan in for a little while made a big difference. Actually, somebody who A, knew the club, but B, knew what was missing, what we were short of. He seemed to get quite a lot done in a short space of time after nothing seemed to be happening for months before it. There's a few things off the pitch that I think I'm interested to see what the new regime are going to do. So commercially, whether it's shirt sponsors, whether it's commercial tie-ups, I mean, now that we're potentially an American market, they might be interested in us, and who knows what connections that might forge and what money it might bring in. I still think Ibrox isn't big enough. I've still got this thing in my head that I would love an extra 5, 6, 7,000 seats inside Ibrox with season tickets on them, earning X million every year in season ticket money, which we don't bring in at the moment. I think that's the new owners keep talking about long-term financial sustainability and long-term success. The biggest income we have usually is gate money and season ticket money. So for me, if you can guarantee an extra few million every year in that, it's an investment that, as long as it doesn't cost too much, just makes sense to me. And we're meant to have a waiting list anyway, aren't we? So let's tap into it and let's use it. And when it comes to on the pitch, I'm just going to quickly touch on that Helicopter Sunday thing you just talked about, because that summer there was a huge rebuild needed, and we got it right in one transfer window. Don't know if you back remember, there was Boomsong came in, really good scouting, young, highly rated European player. We made a huge profit on him and not went to time. That's the kind of signings I think we talk about trying to find now. But what we also did was we brought in leadership, experience in a spine. We brought in, like Dado Pusso, for example, who was massive in the dressing room. And I think if we can have the kind of recruitment this summer as we had 20 years ago that summer, then I think it would go a long way to being successful next year.
Without doubt, if we could find a Boomsong, a Purso, even a Novo, who is, these guys are so important. And I spoke about that when you're talking about the boy Shaden at Aberdeen, the difference he can make. We miss a contribution like Novo. God, I would give a lot for a guy like that, Nacho Novo, in our team, who was just a fantastic trier and everything else. Let's talk a wee bit about this, because this has been coming up. Before we do, huge thank you to GR986, another brilliant friend of the show, gifted another membership to the podcast. We really love that. Thank you, mate. Appreciate that. Comment on the back of your comment as well. Get what David is saying regarding more seats at Ibrox. Looks like owners want player trading to be sustainable. I think they absolutely do. Let's talk about the next thing, because this is one of the biggest questions that keep coming up about this £20 million. There's been so many tales on social media told about this. Let's just get it straight as well before we go any further. Rangers in their press release said the following, and this is the words that Rangers as a club state themselves. The new leadership has committed to invest £20 million into the club at this time, which will be subject to shareholder approval at the general meeting on the 23rd of June 2025. Here's what this means. It means that they have put in £20 million guarantee of funds straight away. On the 23rd at the AGM, they will be asked, the shareholders, if that is granted, and it will be given back to the owners in form of shares. This isn't a share issue when that we're expecting fans to pay for it. It's not open. It's not a shareholding like that. This is not a massive share issue. This is a share issue for them. If you remember years ago, the club put out a new thing at an EGM where they could issue new shares basically to get funds right into the club. This is it. This is it entirely what they're doing. It is not all we are putting into the club as a new consortium. It is not what has been paid into or to buy the football club. The shares for 51%, we believe, cost in the region of £75 million. That cannot go back into the club. That has been paid to shareholders by the new owners of the football club. So I hope that clears it up a wee bit. A lot of people asking, a lot of people are focusing on this 20 million as being all we have, and the only comments about that are, 20 million, that'll never be enough and stuff like that. That's initial investment. That could be a boost to this summer. I equate it to the first buy-in basically at the football club. When they go private, they won't have to go through this rigmarole to put money into the club. It'll be completely different. Davey, a lot of people focusing on 20 million saying it's not enough. 20 million is to add to whatever we had this summer. In the last few summers, we've spent in the region of 15 to 20 million pounds, and we've talked about this, about spending it properly. We've lost and made losses in the last few months as well, or the last few seasons, but that's been due to other circumstances of what we've been doing as a club. That's an immediate injection into this football club. I think people are forgetting that. It's a real positive thing, and somehow it's been discussed in a negative sense by others. I don't get it, and I'm not really interested in getting too much into that. But it's a real positive for the football club, regardless of what's been said elsewhere.
I think I alluded to it earlier on. I see it as £20 million over and above whatever Rangers were going to spend this summer. So whatever that was going to be, and as you pointed out, history tells you, even in summers the recent summers that Rangers have said that they're tightening their belt, they're looking at spending, we still bring in 10, 15 million pounds worth of players in a summer transfer window. Last summer we bought Bajrami, Igaman, Proper, Diamandi, I think we paid for last summer, I think, didn't we? Jeff Day, so I don't know what that will come to, maybe 12 million, something like that. And that was in a summer we were tightening our belts. So there would have been a budget anyway. And whoever the new manager is would have had that budget. But now he's also got this little bonus, or this big bonus, that says there's up to £20 million extra in a pot sitting inside Ibrox, which you can access. And again, I still would say that there will be sales this summer as well. And I'd like to think that the proceeds of those sales will go towards the team rebuild as well. I'm fully expecting at least 3 or 4 players to be sold this summer. So there's, I hate using expressions like war chests and stuff like that, but there's a big rebuild needed. I think we've spoken in previous pods about the number of players we think we need to bring in. Anywhere between 6 and 10, 12 first team players probably is what we need, and that's before we lose anybody. So it's going to require quite a bit of funding. But to me, that announcement yesterday confirmed the fact that we're going to see Rangers spending this summer more than they've spent in any summer for a long time.
Can I just clarify something as well? And this kind of irritates me. You know what I'm like? Sheryl has been a bit grumpy. But people saying that, that 20 million, 4 million will go to Cortez straight away. First of all, that's just a load of nonsense, because that deal was done out with. And here's what happens when you buy a football player. It's very rare that you go, there's £4 million. It probably get paid up, just like Ryan Kent was paid up over 4 years. Just like other deals, Yanis Hadji was very high profile. He's been paid up over, I think it was £1 million over 3 seasons for Yanis Hadji. Oscar Cortez is the exact same, and that's built into our plans and finances already. So it's not like they're suddenly going to go, here's 20 million, we'll just take 4 straight from that for Oscar Cortez. Can we just be a wee bit more sensible and think a wee bit, folks, and stop reading about online nonsense when it comes to what we're going to do with this £20 million? There was also a question as well of how do I know this, and what do I know, and I won't know what's going on with regards to 20 million being on top of a budget. You're just going to have to trust me on that. I'm quite happy. I sat here on Wednesday night saying the takeover was done, and you could hear an announcement imminently. So it's up to folk whether or not they believe me on my track record of things that I've talked about at this football club that were and were not going to happen. Sheryl, the 49ers influence, Rangers are going to be able to tap into that expertise and that leadership. A lot of these guys, we talked about it yesterday as well, have got master's degrees and very smart guys. I can't help but think that that's going to be behind the strategy, their expertise, things that have been models that have been put in place at previous, not previous clubs, at their current clubs, and in their current enterprise and things. That's all going to come into play.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, look, we don't want to go over it too much, but we're starting afresh now. It's a new beginning. But I think that was the thing that would be levelled at the last board, now that we have the new board in, that these guys had great intentions. They were good Rangers men. They were very, very successful within their own business fields. But there wasn't anybody there that had major success at running a football club and had that kind of expertise behind them. So now that we have that and we're able to tap into that, not just in a British sense, in a European sense, but do you know what, worldwide, a huge, huge backing that we're going to have. It's just massively exciting to see where they're going to be able to take us and the influence they're going to have. They'll have done their homework on us. They know what we're about. They'll know, I mean, that they're not daft. They'll know what they need to do as well to kind of take us on to that next level. So I just think it's hugely exciting, Stevie, and I can't wait to see what it brings us.
You didn't upset me, Mac. I'm just grumpy, and it's more online. Everybody going on about this Cortez stuff and that. It just does my head in. People thinking that all of a sudden 4 million from that 20 would go to him. So,
Stevie, would you mind if I go back just to pick up on something that David says?
This is your show, so go ahead.
In terms of who we think might go out as well, because I'm with Davey. I think that, you know, some of that money, maybe even half of that money, will come from sales. And I think if we're going to go ahead and we're going to move ahead, we need to look at, we keep talking about it, that player trading model being more sustainable. You need to look at somebody like Raskin, who, as far as we're aware, hasn't signed a new deal. So he's at his peak value now. And it's sad that I don't want to lose him, but he's just kind of coming on his own. We keep saying future captain. I don't think he'll be there for that. And I think if we need to embrace that player trading model, he's going to be one of the ones that probably leaves in the summer, maybe a Gaman as well. So that's a fair whack. You know, these are players that are assets and that should bring in a fair amount of money if they do go in the summer.
Yeah, listen, I think that's a really good point, and it was something I was going to mention the last, I think, maybe on the new owners and things like that, but we will talk about Thelwell and manager for a wee bit as well, conscious of time. Don't want to keep everybody. I don't think it changes Nico Raskin or Hamza Egaman's situation in the slightest. Look at what happened at Leeds with Somerville and things like that last summer, and I think that Leeds fans were furious about the outgoings at the time. In fact, there's been a few posts from Leeds fans, and there was a really good one on the Heart and Hand Patreon page, which has been circulated on the net from a Leeds fan. He talks about that they will do ruthless business that they feel is right for this football club and business. Somebody comes in for huge money for Nico Raskin at the prime time of selling this summer, and they think they can't get him to renegotiate a contract or whatever. I would imagine Nico Raskin will go, regardless of what we think as a support, and that's how they'll do it. And that money then will be available to go back into the football club. So, although this changes our financial backdrop and we have much more stability at the football club, which I think is a key word, I don't think it changes how we'll run the football club as a business with regards to players that might go out. So I don't think that is even a consideration, actually, that they'll start going off no big money for Nico Raskin, Hamza Egaman or whatever, and say no to that. I don't think that's key. But there's no longer pressure to do that. Whereas this summer before, if this hadn't happened, we might be in a situation where we're not trying to flog Nico Raskin, that's probably the wrong word, but we would be really welcome to some bids. Before we move on, last one I think on this, Curry asked Stevie, will new owners come out and publicly give a roadmap of what they're going to do or hoping to do at the club? There is no press conferences, there is no razzmatazz, there is no big show and tell of who these guys are, and that's how they want it. They want to be quietly effective. Their message very much is judge us on what we are going to do, not on what we say. It was a very small intro yesterday from Andrew Kavanagh and Pajra Marathi. So I think that's what we do. What I will say is that the EGM on the 23rd of June is more or less a case that will be the first chance for them to talk. But they're not big talkers. We've already been told that. They won't come here and give interviews every month, 2-3 months. They will be in the background making this club the way they want it to be. So I wouldn't expect big flashy interviews from our new owners. I wouldn't expect them to be visible to the public at all. I think you'll see Patrick Stewart, Fraser Thornton very much running the football club, but I think you'll see the football club quieting down now and just go on about its business, putting in the right people and getting on with it. And that's kind of the way I like it, to be quite honest with you to that. Let's move on though from Takeover chat slightly to go to Kevin Thelwell, who starts on Monday. Sheryl and Davey, Sheryl, come to you first. Huge appointment. He comes straight into the fire of everything. He has to get the head coach appointment right. We've then got, when it's not unfair to say, dozen or so players in and out, were Barry Ferguson's words. It could be as high as that. It might be the beginning of as high as that. This guy comes in to a situation where he has to get it right immediately, but it's an appointment again that has been long welcomed. To get him officially starting on Monday, I think this will be a wee bit like I talked about this the other day, the analogy of the ball of string, where we pull a thread and it all begins to unravel nicely. I think that Kevin Thelwell arriving will see the appointment of a head coach, will see the appointment of somebody in recruitment, head of recruitment, to bring in the signings and things like that underneath him. It'll bring in somebody from the academy, mostly likely people he's worked with, people he knows. And I think that's exactly how this is going to work out. He's been unofficially working for the club for a while now, Sheryl, but are you excited to see him here and finally starting officially?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I think it's a great appointment. I think, like you say, he'll know who he wants to bring in. Hopefully it's a manager very, very shortly, and that can put us all out of our misery. He's got a huge job on his hands, but he'll know that coming in. And I think, like you said, Stevie, he'll have been working away in the background. You know, the minute that he knew that he had that job, that he was going to be in place, he'll know the job that he's got in his hands, and I'd imagine he'll know exactly what he needs to do. And I can't wait for the moment that he appoints a manager, and then we're able to move on, we're able to get our strategy in place, bring in players, look at who we need to get rid of, because like I say, it's an absolutely massive job, and we're well aware that we're really working against time here. We know that we're hit the middle towards the end of July. We've got our qualifiers. There's not a great deal of time, and he really does need to hit the ground running.
Davey, Kevin Thelwell comes in on Monday. Sheryl summed that up. He has to hit the ground running.
Without doubt. He's got a huge job. let's not pretend here. But he's got a background that suggests that he knows what he's doing, and he's been brought in by a group of people who are ultimate professionals who have picked him, obviously knowing that it's a job that he can do. I'm interested to see the way he goes about things. Obviously, the manager's the thing that everybody wants sorted first. But I'm also interested to see what he does in terms of the recruitment team, in terms of the fitness side of things, the injuries record that we've had. I think there's a number of different areas within his remit that I think he needs to work on and he needs to improve. And something I mentioned earlier on with the chat. If we're going to go down the head coach route and not actually have a sort of figurehead manager type, he might be the one that fronts any disagreements we have with the likes of the league, the SFA. He might be talk about refereeing standards. Because I think if there's a head coach, they'll want him to concentrate on the team itself. So I think the off-field stuff that undoubtedly will jump up and bite Rangers at some point next season, because it jumps up and bites us every season. I think he's probably who I'd look to front that and to speak up for the club. So I think he's got a huge job, but I'm looking forward to him doing it. I'm looking forward to his first decision, which I'm hoping we'll find out just this week.
Yeah, his first decision is going to be key, and we're going to discuss that in a minute. Bluebells, our Blue has gifted 5 for Lads of the Dream Rangers podcast membership, as he always does on these things. Thank you very much, mate. We really, really appreciate that. Heard we are looking for a press officer who knows how to fire a shotgun double-barreled. No, we are not looking for a press officer. Greg Mailer has just started as Director of Comms, and he's been here now, I think, 8 weeks. Comes from Brentford, has worked at Manchester United, has a massive, a lot of experience in what he is doing. We need to allow him and see how he gets on. That's quite frankly where we are. Big thanks to John, who's become a new YouTube member. Right, we've got 5 minutes or so, and I think it's fair that we discuss the manager chat. Look, I'll give you my opinion on it straight away. There's a reason why the press are stuck on Ancelotti and Martin. There's a reason why it's calm from the Rangers camp, and there's a reason why there's no or new names are being flung in, but they don't really stick. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Rangers know exactly what they're doing, if Kevin Thelwell knows exactly what he's doing. And when he starts on Monday, as Davey says, this all unravels, I beg your pardon, very quickly. It's Davide Ancelotti Jr. and Russell Martin who are being discussed. I've had my say on both of these quite a bit, Davey, excuse me. We're now down to what is perceived to be the final two. And the truth is, and I don't mind saying it, and I'll say it again, none of the people on this panel, the three of us, know. None of the people in the media know. The only people that know is the people inside Ibrox. And that's exactly how I think it should go. I've got my own opinion. I've got my own theory. We all will have that. I've got my own choice as well. That's like every other supporter, which is all I am. Everywhere will have the absolute same opinions and things and wants and doesn't want. Davey, Sheryl, I'll ask you in a minute. Where are we for you guys on this manager kind of search and manager chat? And what do you think will happen this week? And even to put you on the line a wee bit, and I'll say the same thing, I'll give my opinion as well. Where do you think that's going to be?
Oh, so I'm going to assume for a minute that there are just the two names in the hat. I mean, there might be a twist to come, but I don't see it coming personally. So where I am, there's risks with both names. There's negatives with both of them, and it'd be easy to concentrate on those negatives. So for me, Russell Martin is one of these managers who's got a sort of philosophy and a style of play, and it seems to come above everything else. And I don't. It's too projecty for me. That I'm looking for someone who is tactically flexible, who's pragmatic, who approach games differently depending on the opposition, but ultimately who is utterly ruthless and a winner. Someone who's winning is all that really matters at the end of the day, and lifting trophies. And if I look at both the candidates. Okay, Ancelotti's never been a manager. I get that, but is there a more demanding club in the world than Real Madrid? I don't know if there is. I mean, we talk about how demanding Rangers is. I mean, Real Madrid have sacked managers that have just won the league because they didn't win the Champions League, for example. They're the most ruthless club, I think, in the entire planet. And if their standards have rubbed off on him, then that's the kind of standard I want to see coming into Rangers. So if I have to choose between those two, I would say Ancelotti would be the man that I would go for.
Sheryl, where are you on your opinion?
Just to bam up the baldies, I'm going to say it has to be Russell Martin because he's got the best hair. And I'm only bringing that up because I heard you say that the other night on the pod, Stevie. No, joking aside, I'm with you, Davey. For me, out of the two of them, and I would have nerves around both of them, it has to be Ancelotti. We've seen with Philippe Clement what it was like to have a manager that was very rigid in his style and that wouldn't change his style when he needed to. He clearly needed to. So we need to get away from that. And that's what you would get, I think, in Russell Martin. So if it has to be the two of them, and we're kind of ignoring all the, was it Farioli that was discussed towards the end of the week? There's been not a lot after that initial stuff, I think, on Thursday around him. There hasn't been much over the weekend. So if it's down to the two of them, I think, yeah, you've got a proven winner as much as you can have in Ancelotti, and yeah, that would be the one for me.
I'm going to do a few questions from people that I've just highlighted a wee bit, just to catch up before I give my opinion on the manager, and we'll close the show. Curry asked, Thelwell coming in already scheduled, Stevie? Yes, it has been. Have Rangers given you advance notice of a placer? Absolutely not. There is no word on the club for anything from Kevin Thelwell or any manager announcement at all. Rangers' line to that is that they will not comment on speculation. So that keeps us all guessing. Bill Story says, guys, any truth about the Coppin going rumours? Bill, the truth is that the Coppin going rumours have been going on now for 3 months, solidly, that Coppin is going and that Coppin's been undermined and that Coppin's this, that and everything else. They remain rumours. Just like there was a rumour that Charai had went a couple of weeks ago and stuff like that from the management team. That's also rumour, which was unfounded. It's rumour. That's all it is. It would be really silly to sit here and say, yeah, definitely happening, because nobody really knows, again, apart from Niels Coppin and who's in the football club. So we'll just have to wait and see how that goes. Maka asked, does Gretar Steinsson still have an input, Stevie? Gretar Steinsson's employed by the 49ers Enterprises, so he's always going to have an input on what goes on, but he'll be above, like Kevin Thelwell, and he'll represent the 49ers' interests. I'd imagine that Gretar Steinsson's done a lot of work with Kevin Thelwell to get the club to a point of a plan for the summer, etc. So if you're asking opinion on that, then that's exactly what it will be. He won't have an official opinion at the football club, or an official position at the football club, not opinion. That's the wrong word, Stevie. That's what happens when you're trying to do comments and everything at once, and you're rocked by Cheryl's baldy comments. So yeah, I think that's where we are. Right, to manager, to sum it all up. If you want to hear Stevie's theory, this is Stevie's theory. Stevie thinks that, and I think that. I think this is already done. I think it's already dusted. I think that Rangers are not in a position, especially under this leadership group, to be naive enough to let this trundle on and on and on. I think they would have wanted to go Takeover, Thelwell, and then manager. So I think next week we'll hear on that. Davide Ancelotti, in my opinion, if you were asked between the two, is my choice. Russell Martin, I've spoke about a lot. I think he'll go on to be a good coach, but there's question marks over how he sets up his team for me. And this is only my opinion. He's defensively a bit soft, I think, and they're a bit leaky. He doesn't change his style of play, and I've seen that before, and that's the issue with me. The biggest issue is I think that Clement, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, Michael Beale were all of a similar mould and idea to Russell Martin, and that just doesn't work. Now, here's where it becomes absolutely silly, because you'll go, Stevie, you don't know anything about Davide Ancelotti, about his style. He's never been a manager. He's no experience. And you're all absolutely right, because it condescends everything that I've maybe thought of. But if you're asking me to hear, if you're asking me to give you an opinion on what's available, then my opinion is that Davide Ancelotti is an exciting, brave new way of doing things. And his contacts and experiences at Real Madrid are something that I really want to tap into. And yeah, I think that it's an exciting one. And he, for me, and this is only my opinion, and there'll be people out there who think differently, and that's brilliant, because it doesn't make me right. This is only my opinion. I think that he's an exciting one. I really do. I think there's a romantic side to him coming in. Really interesting to see how he does it. Really interesting to see what players he could bring with him. I'm not talking about from Real Madrid, but they will want to be part of things, and part of his revolution. A lot of players, you don't hear players, and you know how volatile Real Madrid players are. And I don't think that if this guy was anywhere near the standards, that we wouldn't have heard negative comments. And I've scrolled about looking for opinions on Ancelotti that would be negative, and nobody speaks like that. And I don't see the likes of Jude Bellingham and Luka Modric and all that working with a guy who's just there because he's his dad's son. I don't see that happening at all. So that's only my opinion on it. And that's only based on what we know, because as I said at the top and in the middle and at the end of this show, we don't know. I would happily tell you or give you an inkling, but I've got my own theories, and that's all. So let's see where it takes us. we are going to end this show here. We've been on 50 minutes. There's almost 4,000 people watching. So thank you very much for everybody and their support. Thank you to our sponsors, Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions, CSD Air Conditioning. They're all going to stay with us for next season. This podcast will continue to try and go from strength to strength. It's been an incredible rise for us. We're now just short of 7,200 subscribers on YouTube, and we were only at 7,000 at the start of the week. So it's incredible the rise in the rate we keep going. So if you haven't subscribed on YouTube, please do. That's a huge help to us. We're well over 350, I think possibly up to 370 odd members on YouTube. Remember, for members, you can access things that non-members can't. You have interviews with former players, Stephen Smith, Bob Malcolm, controversially Stevie Naismith, a lot of feedback on that one. And there'll be more to come. There'll be different shows as well available to non-members. Davey's going to start a new one where he talks about his Rangers firsts, and all the podders will be interviewed, and that'll also be available to people on the highest tier supporting us as well, to pop onto the show and have your chance to come on to Four Lads as well. So all that's interesting. We're going to do that as well. We'll have a regular giveaway as such with Black Rooster, our sponsors, before every home game as well, for members as well. So you can win free Black Roosters on a weekly basis as well. So considering I'm on a diet, the more you use it, win it, the more helpful it is for me. But Davey, listen, Sheryl as well. Davey, first of all, thank you for joining us this Saturday afternoon. I know you've got grandchildren to pick up from parties and everything, mate. So thank you very much for joining us.
It's been a pleasure. It's a great time to be alive at the moment, actually. And I'm expecting to be hold on to a few more podcasts in the days to come, because I'm expecting this to be a pretty hectic time for all us in the podcast world. So it's great. Thanks very much. And it's brilliant, the numbers that you're getting to watch these things. It's absolutely amazing.
Sheryl, thank you so much for joining us on this Saturday afternoon.
No, thank you for having me. Thank you for all the lovely comments as well. I put in a group chat yesterday that I was approached in Sainsbury's by somebody that worked there to ask if I was Sheryl from Four Lads, and to pass on what a great job we're doing. So it's lovely, all the interaction online as well. It's just a brilliant time to be part of you guys, and I'm really grateful.
Yeah, I would agree. I think for once, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a wee bit of energy back into the support and back into the football club. It's going to be a really busy time. We'll be back tomorrow. I'm with Kenny tomorrow. We're just going to sit down and have a review of everything that's happened, just to talk more about Rangers. We'll be back Monday night. We'll be back Tuesday. Kenny and I will be back Wednesday. We're more or less going to be on nearly every single day. So if you want content and you want a wee chit chat about Rangers, or you just want to listen in, members, get your questions in and everything else, then yeah, please do join us. But have a great Saturday. Enjoy the Champions League final tonight. I'm working. I won't see it, but hopefully I'll be able to catch bits of it. It should be a really good game. And otherwise, have a great weekend. Join us at 5 tomorrow. I think Kenny and I have arranged that for 5 o'clock tomorrow. So come and join us then. We'll chat more about takeovers and managers and everybody else. But for now, have a great Saturday night. Enjoy your time with your families out there. Stay safe, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining us, folks. Thank you.
The Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.